That's right, Josh Simmons, one of the coolest CTOs on planet Earth. Yeah, baby, this is some fresh music. I love it. Let's turn it back up. It's Friday, right? You know you just want to get dancing in the house with that, right? Crank it up, baby. Hey, what's going on, LinkedIn and YouTube? We're gonna have a fun day today. It's Friday, and you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, let's go celebrate the weekend, right? We got Friday coming up. We got the weekend. The holiday season's here, although I live in Tampa, and I'll just be honest with you, it doesn't feel like Christmas is coming around. It's still like hot, and I'm out there like cleaning my pool today and stuff like that. Like, what's the deal? But we're going to cover something fun today. I was just jumping into some cybersecurity news and saw some stuff going on with LAPSUS. We've talked about a LAPSUS a little bit in some of my circles, but probably not enough, and so we're going to do that. Let's change my background here because the live stream's already going, baby. How about that one? Yeah, that one's super cool. So what's going on? I see a whole bunch of you already joined in. Say hi to me. I actually don't know who's joined in right now other than Josh. So, because he's put a note in. So say what's up to me. Tell me who you are, where you're connecting in from. And maybe how about this? Have any of you, get my grammar right, have any of you heard of LAPSUS? Curious. Right now, they're going after bigger groups, but their tactics as a threat operator are kind of interesting. And their skill set is super interesting. So we're going to talk about that today as well. Eric Moore, what's going on, man? Hi to you as well. Good to see you on here, my friend. Glad you joined us. Who's the rest? I see a bunch of you on here, so say hi to me. Don't not say hi. Be cool like Eric. Don't we all want to be like Eric? I want to be like Eric. Say hi to me. Let me know where you're connecting in from, and we're going to get this thing going. So to get started, I'm actually going to share with you pretty much everything I'm going to show is what I've learned today. So some of this is going to be kind of like, I want to teach you a little bit about how sometimes I'll dive into a threat actor. I'll dive into some security news, and I'm going to show you how I unpack some of these things. There's one thing that I won't show you, but I'm going to show you in return. I'm going to show you something even cooler, twice as cool. How about that for like a lead in to get some things going? So we're going to jump into this, but I'm still waiting. I only hear from Eric. What's going on? There's a whole bunch of the rest of you on here. Go say hi to me. Don't be shy. I want to know who you are. Okay. Well, I'm waiting for you because I'm going to hold you guys to it. I see you on here. Let's jump in. Here's what I first saw right here. Let's yeah, this should be big enough to see. Okay, so this comes from The Hill. I like The Hill just because they report across a pretty diverse set of things that are happening at the national level. Many of you have probably read them before. And this one, DHS Cyber Board to examine hacking group LAPSUS. So I read that and I'm like, okay, I'm interested because it's LAPSUS. But I'm also interested because I want to know a little bit more about who LAPSUS is and why is the federal government diving into them? Why are they reaching into this a little bit more? Aaron Peters, what's up? Thanks for joining today. I know you've been on before in the live streams. Glad you're with us today. High five to you. It's Friday, baby. We're going to enjoy this. We're going to have some fun in your final meeting. By the way, this is your final meeting of the day, okay? Because I said so. So if your boss asks you why you're leaving early, it's because you're like, hey, I did a live stream with Wes and he told me I could leave early. And that's just what we do around here, right? So Aaron, I got your back, my friend. Eric, I got your back as well. Anyone else listening, you better say hi so I can have your back as well. Otherwise, I'm not going to know who you are, right? So this is an interesting one because at first I'm thinking, well, what kind of research are they going to do? Like, what kind of examination is DHS going to do into LAPSUS? Now, if you remember LAPSUS, they've had some pretty notable hacks. They've gone after Microsoft. They actually stole a significant amount of source code from Microsoft. They've gone after Okta and some others as well that my brain doesn't remember, but I'm sure these articles will refresh us. So clearly, I mean, LAPSUS as a threat actor is prolific in the sense that they've gone after some bigger companies, but I still wonder there's a lot of others that are out there too. So, why LAPSUS? Like, what are they thinking here, right? So let's dive into this article a little bit. So DHS announced, and let me just turn chat over so we can see that full screen. There we go. So DHS announced on Friday, and I think that's today, right? Yeah, that's today. My facts are good still. That it's Cyber Safety Review Board. Now, let me just pause there. And I was like, wait, for some reason, this missed my radar. I don't know if you guys are like this, but one of the reasons I like to talk to a lot of friends in the industry is because it's just a torrent when it comes to security. There's no one of us that knows everything that's going on, right? And so because of that, I just missed this. I didn't know who the Cyber Safety Review Board was. I'm curious if any of you guys in chat or if you know who the Cyber Review Board is. If you've heard of them, let me know. So that led me down kind of a Google train of like, okay, I'm going to check them out. So more on them in just a minute. We'll dive into them, right? But they're going to conduct a review of recent hacks with LAPSUS, and they call them, the Hill calls them a global extortion hacking group that's been tied to numerous stated breaches. And this is true. They're less ransomware and more extortion. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have a financial component behind them and they don't demand ransoms. But we've been talking about this for quite some time, is that the classic definition of ransomware itself, of bad guys encrypting your files and then demanding money back, may have limited future. I don't know. We'll see. But we're starting to see an evolution in some of these threat actors. One is here with LAPSUS, right? We talk about the fact that what these people are doing is they're really going after your data, but they're really wanting mass amounts of it. They're wanting it at the enterprise level, and they want to hold that hostage and force people into paying so that the data doesn't get leaked out. Less on the actual ransoming side. And I think that's interesting. And there's a lot of reasons for this, because our resiliency is getting better around data backups, right? You know, let's just be honest. These ransomware actors they caught us all with our pants down, so to speak, over the past few years because we thought we had good data backups and we didn't. Or we did have good data backups and we never tested recovery at scale. And so we couldn't return the data in time and had to pay the ransom. So bad guys know that we're getting better at our resilience. And so they're going after things like what LAPSUS is doing. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But also, we're seeing another evolution. My friends over at Stairwell, Paul Scott and some other awesome folks over there uncovered last month a new threat actor that's just emerged. And what they're actually doing is they're literally stealing your data like LAPSUS, but then they hard delete everything. And the reason they're doing that instead of encrypting everything is because they want to make it easier for you to pay the ransom. See, here's this nuance. This paradigm, is that the right word? I don't know. The irony inside of threat actors is they want to push so much incredible pain upon you to force you into paying the ransom. But the instant the decision criteria to pay that ransom has been made in your mind, they want to all of a sudden let up and make it as easy as possible with no fringes attached to it, no difficulties, to make paying that ransom smooth, baby. Easy, baby. Easy, as easy as like listening to this rockin' music. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what they're after. They're like, how do we make it easy? That's really the truth, right? And so we know they've done things like spinning up help. Let's get that music back on. You know, they've done things like spinning up help desks. We've talked about that to make paying a ransom easier, but they've always been saddled with the challenge of sometimes the decryptors don't work. And so people are like, well, I don't know if I want to pay this ransom because the decryptor might work and not work. And even after I've paid the money, I may not get some of my files back. And so what Stairwell uncovered is a new threat actor that's literally realized that and said, you know what, we're just going to delete all your data, hard delete it. And then we're going to store clear text copies with us. And so when you pay the ransom, there's no worry about decryption because we're just going to give you all your data back. It's like, you know, the head tap meme, right? Like, can't have problems restoring your ransom if your encrypted files, if they were never encrypted, right? So I'm not saying that's a good thing. It's a bad thing. But what I am saying is it's the evolution of what these bad guys are doing. They're thinking through, I want to push you into pain to pay the ransom, and then I want to free you up to make it as easy to pay as possible. And so if I never have to decrypt files, I just get my files back, well, isn't that better? And wouldn't I be more like akin to wanting to pay the ransom? That's sort of what's in their thought process. Okay. So I took that rabbit trail because it's Friday. It's what we do. And also because I thought that it's important that you understand the classic approach of how ransomware works and threat actors work will not always be the same. This is unfortunately a living group of people, bad people, that are going to change their methods based upon how we respond. It's always been cat and mouse. Always, always, always. And will continue to be so. So let's go back to the article. All that triggered me because the Hill called these folks, the LAPSUS people, a global extortion hacking group, not necessarily like a classic ransomware group. So does that make sense? Curious, in chat, what you guys think about that as well. If you're seeing kind of the same thing, if you agree that we're going to see this ebb and this flow, I would love to know what you think about this as well. Okay, so let's move on a little bit. So DHS said the cyber criminal group has reportedly used various techniques to circumvent a range of security controls and has successfully infiltrated several companies across multiple industries, even big ones, even security companies like Microsoft and Okta. And that's interesting to me because these are the companies that have a lot of controls in place and have big budgets in place and have hundreds of security analysts and millions of dollars invested in their cybersecurity controls. Does that scare you? Like, many of you listening today are probably a little different than that. You're like, well, I'm not Microsoft and I don't have millions of dollars in budget. I don't even make millions of dollars per year across all my clients. So, like, what do I do about that, right? If they're going to get hit by all this stuff, what am I supposed to do about it? And it's interesting because these companies have multi-factor deployed everywhere. These companies are doing all the right stuff in terms of putting the controls in place. Shoot, some of them even make their own EDR, right? So it's kind of disheartening to say the least, right? But we'll get into that. Don't fret too much. I got your back, all right? I'm not here to scare you on a Friday. I'm here to have some fun with you guys on a Friday. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about what those tactics were. Just recognize that they're not elite tactics. They're not like scary 0-day stuff, right? They're not. So we're going to get into that. The board remember the Cyber Safety Review Board, which, by the way, Cyber Safety Review Board, doesn't that like strike you like Automobile Safety Review Board? Like the crash dummies people of the 80s and 90s, they even had their own music and they would like wreck them into walls. I think they still do that. But like when I hear like Cyber Safety Review Board, I think of like the cyber version of like crash dummies. I don't know why. I just think it's a terrible name. Like, you could have come up with so much of a better name. We're so good at naming security stuff like Heartbleed, and Log4j. And I don't know. I'd go on and on. But the best the government comes up with is Cyber Safety Review Board. It just makes me think like consumer protection, consumer safety. I don't know. I just thought it's funny. So they're going to include recommendations on how organizations can protect themselves, their employees, and their customers from cyber extortion schemes. I think that's important. But I also think just giving recommendations is nice, but it's not the end of the world here. It's not going to fix every little piece of this. And the reason for that is because if you're not going to force people into making changes, then they're just going to hear this nice, objective, oh, great thoughts for me, government. Thank you. I'll definitely take that into account. And most companies just move on and do what they do, right? So keep that in mind. Eric, let me bring your quote up here. It says some of it cut off, but I can read the rest of it. I think, oh my gosh, this is such a bug on Restream is it goes blue on my end. So it's hard to read it all. But at this point, I'm not sure what we will see anymore. The goalposts are constantly, I'm gonna have to turn this off so I can read the rest of it. The goalposts are constantly moving and the powers that be that control the goalpost seem like they don't even know what they're looking at. I can't disagree with that, Eric. I see where you're coming from, and I think you make a good point. And I think that's especially true down market with SMBs. Many SMBs, MSPs included, feel like while the government is doing some good things in security and we're dedicated resources into it and we actually are like moving the right direction some places, the SMBs are still left out, which is the vast majority of the US economy is still being left out. Not just the US, but worldwide. We're still being left out. And so if the goalposts are completely being moved, to Eric's point, and let me bring the quote, take it off so I can read it. Sorry about that. They don't even know what they're looking at. Yeah, I mean, I see that as a problem. So we still have a lot of, I think that point, Eric, is that we have a lot of progress we still need to make. A long way to go as well, for sure. Okay, so let's go on a little bit more. So let me bring the article back up for us. Here we go. So LAPSUS has been linked to a number of data breaches, including major tech companies like Uber. We know all about Uber, right? And this was the LAPSUS attack was was it the most recent? I'd have to go back and look, but Uber's been hit multiple times, unfortunately. Microsoft, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Cisco, Okta, and others, right? So yikes, right? The ongoing LAPSUS hacks represent just the type of activity that merits a fulsome review and can provide forward-looking recommendations to improve the nation's cybersecurity in the near term, said Alejandro Mayorkas. So Alejandro Mayorkas is, I think, the director for DHS. So he's as high up as you get, basically. And I do agree with Director Mayorkas' statement here, is that, yes, we do need a fulsome review. We really do. We got to dive into this. And I think forward looking, looking at the implications, giving us guidance, all of that stuff is good. So we'll cover that. Agency did not provide a timeline, so they just kind of signaled, hey, we're going to do something about this, which is good. So I think the next question that comes up for me is, who the heck is the review board, right? So I found this here. This is from CISA. So it's cisa.gov/cyber-safety-review-board. Need a code name for this. Give me a good code name in chat. The winner of the best code name for the CSRB will get a million dictator coin from me, baby. I will just make you a dictator coin millionaire. You might as well pick out your moon Lambo color at that point, right? Because I don't know if you know, but I made dictator coin a while back as a joke, and I haven't given enough of it away. So I need to do that. So come up with an awesome not dictator name. Come up with an awesome name for the Cyber Safety Review Board that's way better than that, or CSRB. And I'm going to make you dictator rich, my friend. That's what I do. It's Friday, and that's how we celebrate, and that's just what we do. Okay, so while I'm waiting for some good names to come in, let's talk about what the heck this thing is. So it was established under President Biden's EO 14028. Now, I covered this, the Improving the Nation's Cybersecurity Executive Order. This is one of these things that's a no-brainer, because what we typically see at the congressional level is cybersecurity is pretty non-bipartisan. Did I say that right? No, it is bipartisan. That's it. That's the right words. It's bipartisan in the sense that both sides of the aisle agree that it's a problem. It doesn't matter, Democrat, Republican, most people all agree that this existential third party, I shouldn't even say existential, this true, actual third party threat from overseas hitting us is real. And so both sides of the aisle tend to agree that we need some kind of, we've got to do something about this, is the best way to say it. They all agree that this is a problem. And so I say that to say, I think it's good that we have these executive orders coming out. Some people don't like EOs, and look, the more EOs we have, the more stuff that goes overhead. I get it. But ones in cybersecurity, I think we all agree are probably needed. So that's interesting. So the board serves a deliberate function to review major cyber events and make concrete recommendations that would drive improvements within the public and private sector. So here's the thing. This thing was created, if I go back over here and we open up the actual executive order, this thing was created on May of 2021. So over a year and a half ago. So that kind of stands to reason. Well, let's judge them for a minute and think through how many things have happened since the creation of the EO that have been major events. I can think of several that have happened, from Colonial Pipeline, which I think happened then. The Kaseya attacks that happened, was it a month after that, I think? Yeah. Then we had of course, all the big breaches like Uber, Microsoft, the ones that LAPSUS was involved in, and some others. So there's been a number of pretty significant, well-known breaches that have all happened. Of course, Log4j. And so we can take a look at this. If you want to see more information, they actually have their charter right here, which I think is good. You can pull that up and read it. But here is their press release. We'll get to their press release about LAPSUS in just a minute. But a couple other things. If you go to additional resources, the Cyber Review Board has not actually been that active of late, which I guess you can look at it in one of two ways. Way one is you're not doing your job. You should be more active. Way two is, well, if the job of the review board is truly to be notable big events, there's only been a handful over the past year. So, and if there had to be one they look at, Log4j being it, yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. So anyway, I say that to say this. they were active with Log4j. The only other time that the CSRB has been active in anything in their mission has been with Log4j. So if you want to go and read that, you can click right here. In fact, I'm just going to bring this up. It's off the topic of today's live stream, but I just want you to see it and be aware of it. So here is the CSRB's recommendations and review of Log4j. And so they kind of talk about what happened. They talk about what we're going to see in the future about this. They talk about recommendations. And I think they even call this an endemic in the sense that Log4j as an issue is not going to go away because you have so much old software that's still going to be vulnerable to this and can't be patched. And it's a big issue, right? So I'm not going to go over any of this in particular other than to say I applaud the CSRB for diving into Log4j and I applaud them for going into LAPSUS. But I will say this. I want to see more. I want to see them more active. I want to see them more practical. I want to see them give more guidance. I want to see them give maybe tools, maybe detection capabilities, maybe, cross-mapped security framework maturity items. There's a lot I'd love to see them bring to bear over time. So am I one of those that's like a huge fan of the CSRB? Well, not yet, because they haven't done enough yet. And it's just a subcommittee, I guess, is the best way to think of it. But I like what they're doing, and I'm glad they're taking action with the folks at with LAPSUS. I'm glad they are, right? That's important. So the other thing I want to show you is the board members. And I also like this. Do you see what I see on here? It's not all a bunch of government folks. There's some people here from the private sector, and I think that's really, really good. Let's take a look at some of them. Let me look around here. Former CTO of CrowdStrike, Dmitry Alperovich. That's good. That person is now, Dmitry is now with the Silverado Policy Accelerators. It sounds like some kind of NGO of some kind or something. I'm not sure. We also have, if we scroll around, Luda Security. I don't know who that is. I also don't know Katie. We could Google them just because I'm curious. Who is Luda Security? Okay, so they're government focused, transforming governments. Okay, so again, some kind of like, I don't know if it's an NGO, but it's government focused. Much more, all these people, DOJ, NSA, blah, blah, blah. Here's one. Okay, so I know Chris Novak. He's not like I've got him on my cell phone. We're good friends or anything. I've talked to Chris before at maybe Black Hat or something. But Chris Novak does some awesome work. I think he's the one that oversees and runs the Verizon DBIR, the Data Breach Incident Response Report, if I remember correctly. So he's with Verizon. So really glad to see Chris on there. He's as credentialed as they come. I think that's great. Who else do we have from the private sector? We got Tony Sager. Tony's great. So from CIS, works with my friend Phyllis Lee. At CIS, really good to see them on there. We've got this, where is it? Here it is. Wendy Whitmore. I don't know Wendy, but I'm glad she's here. So she's the senior VP of Unit 42, Palo Alto's threat research unit, one of the most elite threat research units that's out there. So very, very good to see that. And then Jerry Davis. I don't know Griffin X, but it sounds cool, right? Like, again, this is what I'm talking about. Remember when I was saying like good names for the CSRB? It looks like we're better. Let's see, Griffin X Security. Let's see if we can find these folks. Canassa's Griffin X. Okay, so it looks like Griffin X is maybe government related. I don't know. We'd have to look at it later. I'm not going to bore the live stream with that, but it's good. My point is this. It's good to see private sector folks on the review board. Now, I don't think they're eligible to like direct it, nor should they, but it's good that they see them. But one thing I think is missing from this whole group here, you guys know what I think that is? Just going to be a little self-serving. I'd love to be on that group. All I got to do is ask me. I mean, wouldn't you want to have a good cybersecurity dictator on your group, right? I promise you, if they elect me as a board member for the CSRB, I'll do two things. First of all, I'll represent you as the small business sector, which seems to be completely ignored in that group. And that's okay. I'm just saying I could bring that to bear. And two, I will make sure that the CSRB has a better name, something cool like Griffin X or Unit 42 or CrowdStrike, all these cool sounding names that the private sector is good at making. We're not going to call it the Cyber Safety Review Board anymore. We're going to come up with an awesome name. And I'm waiting for one of you guys in the comments to give me a good name so you can be a Dictator Coin millionaire. So anyway, I joke, but I would love to be on that group. And I'm glad to see what they're doing. Okay, so now that I said all that, let's go a little bit more and let's take a peek at what they're producing around this. So this is under DHS. And we can take a look at this. Keep in mind, they haven't produced the recommendations yet. They're just signaling to us, hello, we are going. Ooh, oh my goodness. Stop. Cue the music back up. Here we go. This way. You see what I see? Well, Matt, you might be the Dictator Coin millionaire of the day. You best start picking out your moon Lambo color, baby, because like Cyber Justice League, that's hot. Like, that's a good name, dude. I really like that. I think that's awesome. So here's my promise. Matt, you hold me to it. We're going to call ourselves the Cyber Justice League, baby. I'm not enough of a comic fan, but like, that's kind of awesome. You do have some competition, though, from my friend Eric Moore. Cyber Strike Force 78, also kind of awesome. Maybe we can, like, combine the two names together, or we can just rotate names, like, every year. I don't know. But I also like Cyber Strike Force 78. They all sound good. But right now, I do think, Matt, this is a killer name right here. Cyber Justice League. I love them all. Yeah. Pretty good stuff. All right, so let's jump back. I knew you guys would come through. I just had to be patient with you, right? And you deliver. This is so awesome, Matt and Eric. Thank you guys. It's rocking. Okay, so let's talk about what they're signaling here. They're signaling we're going to start some research around this, and here it is, right? So we can read a few things about this. We've established ourselves. I think this is funny. We've established ourselves as an innovative, enduring institution in the cybersecurity ecosystem. Why? Because we said so. Ha ha ha. I just love that. I think it's hilarious. But I hope they do become that. I'm not against them, right? With a review into LAPSUS, the board will build on the lessons learned from our first review, which was on, as we said, Log4j, and blah, blah, blah. Actionable recommendations help the private and public sectors. I think that's great. We need that, right? I applaud it, right? We've talked about this. So, there's not much here, right? And if we go down here, LAPSUS has targeted some of the most sophisticated companies on the planet. I mean, kinda. I would agree with Microsoft being sophisticated, one of the most sophisticated on the planet. Sure, I suppose. But probably not Uber. I just hate to say it. Sorry, Uber. Don't sue me. I'm not necessarily defaming you. I'm just saying, oof, over the past while. But they're doing a better job now, aren't they? So we'll say that. Maybe that'll keep me from being sued. In the wake of major events, the Cyber Safety Review Board conducts authoritative fact-finding issues, recommendations that can have immediate impact on the security of the ecosystem. That's good, right? So we'll see what comes out of all of this with LAPSUS, right? So that kind of brings me to this point. Okay, so LAPSUS is big in terms of notoriety. They've gone after some big companies. The Cyber Safety Review Board, aka Cyber Justice League, aka Cyber Strike Force 78, is going to be doing what? They're going to be researching and reviewing them. So that brings up this next question. Who the heck is LAPSUS, and what the heck have they been doing, and why is this so big? I still haven't answered that question. So I'm going to share with you two more things. I'm going to share with you some info on who LAPSUS is. And then how about this? Don't tell anybody, but I'm going to show you one of LAPSUS's groups. I actually might have access to LAPSUS's leak site, maybe, theoretically, maybe, and I'm going to maybe show it to you guys if you want to still be watching towards the end. It's my draw to keep you in there. I'm not going to share with you, A, how I got access to it, and B, I will not share with you the actual link to get into it, but I will share with you LAPSUS's inside guts, just because I'm that kind of guy. And no, lawyers, prosecutors, and all you other law enforcement people, I am not a member of LAPSUS. I just happen to get in on it like every other security person that knows how to look. So don't come after me for this, right? I'm just showing you it's educational purposes only, right? Okay, so let's go back. One of the best places to go when you want some juicy inside information is none other than Mr. Krebs himself. What a great person. He has some bravery on him that I don't think the rest of us have put together on this live stream. I mean, this guy, if you follow his background, he's been swatted before. Like bad guys have actually called the SWAT to his home, and like he's uncovered some of the very high profile stuff and even named threat actors who now sit in prison. So this guy has some boldness to him that I just deeply respect. And I love his research. I love his work. He does a great job. So if you're not familiar with Krebs, you should be. You can subscribe to him so you can get all of the information. But he regularly speaks at conferences. So it's hard to be a security person of any amount of time and not know who Brian Krebs is, or at least not heard him speak at a minimum. So let's dive into this a little bit. I'm not going to go through every tiny piece of this, but I'm going to highlight a few things I think are pretty good. So Microsoft and Okta both this week. Now, keep in mind, this is way back in March. Okay. So back in March, disclosed 2 breaches involving LAPSUS. So wow, talk about a double whammy, right? A relatively new cybercrime group that specializes in stealing data from big companies and threatening to publish it unless a ransom demand is paid. Remember this? They're not like the classic, we're going to ransom your files. I mean, think about it. Like, what are you going to do after going after Microsoft? You're going to like go ransom Microsoft's files? Like, this is not the way. It's not going to get you anything. It's probably not going to get you anywhere, right? So they're smart enough to at least say that's not our tactic, right? Our tactic is to steal your data and hold that ransom, right? Okay, so what do we want to say here? And some of the low tech but high impact methods they use to gain access. I think that's a big point that Brian makes. Is they're not necessarily using these scary 0 days. They're using low tech, tried and true, still effective in 2022 and 2023 methods that have been effective since mankind has been around. That is exploiting the human. I don't know if Connor Swalm or Josh Simmons are still on, but that is what they've dedicated their company to. Fin Security, finsec.io. If you guys are looking for an awesome security awareness training platform, go look at Fin. I love what Fin is doing. They're doing some amazing things there. And the reason they're doing it is because of this right here. LAPSUS has been able to go after Microsoft. They've been able to go after Okta. They've been able to go after, who did I not name? NVIDIA, Samsung, Vodafone, Okta, like all these companies, because the weakness of humans is pervasive and preeminent and will be for quite some time. Boy, I sound smart. Pervasive? Preeminent? Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I might have just looked those 2 words up earlier and just decided I was going to use them today. I might have, but it makes me sound smart, and that's good for me, right? Right. Okay, so let's go on a little bit. So on Tuesday, again, keep in mind, this is way back in March, LAPSUS announced via its Telegram channel, which I'm going to show you, was releasing source code stolen from Microsoft. In a blog post, Microsoft this is hilarious. Don't miss this. Microsoft said it interrupted the LAPSUS group's source code download before it could finish, and it was able to do so. Why? Because LAPSUS publicly discussed their illicit access on their Telegram channel before the download could complete. You can't make this stuff up. So let's get this straight. LAPSUS, through non-technical but elite means, was able to get access into Microsoft, into source code, and the ability to download said source code, significant amounts of it, and was in the process of downloading this data, downloading this source code, and just couldn't help but brag about it on their Telegram channel. They're like, hey, yo, look at us. We got some Microsoft source code. We're coming after Microsoft. Look what we did. We're awesome. Look, we're elite, blah, 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 blah. And Microsoft, because they also have their own threat research units, were in the same Telegram channel that LAPSUS was in. And we're looking at it like, wait a second, that's ours. We need to go take action right now. And so they did. You can't make this stuff up. Like, if they had just shut their mouths a little bit longer, they wouldn't have gotten everything. I can't tell you. It's so funny. LAPSUS chat. Access died when I was sleeping. Would have been a complete dump, but we're all tired, right? So like, hey, look, we're humans too. We may be these like well-known threat actors that have hit the scene and all the rage and all the talk of the town, but we got to sleep too. We need our beauty sleep. We got to stay looking good for the cyberhood. We got to we got to maintain appearances. So they had to sleep too. They're not working all night, slaving over all of this. They needed to sleep too. But of course they had to go brag ahead of time. I cracks me up. Okay. So Microsoft made a statement about it. Basically, none of our customer code was released, none of your data. So, hey, look, we don't rely on the secrecy of our code as a means for security. So it does not lead to an elevation of risk. I don't know that I fully agree with that, Microsoft, because We all know having access to source code gives the ability for bad guys to potentially find vulnerabilities far easier. We can always reverse things, I recognize, but that makes it all a whole lot easier, doesn't it? I don't know if you've ever looked at reverse code versus source code, but there's a big difference. So I don't know what to say about that, but whatever. But it may be tempting to dismiss them as an immature, fame-seeking group. Their tactics should make anyone, listen to this, anyone in charge of corporate cybersecurity sit up and take notice. Microsoft says LAPSUS, they call Dev 0539, which Krebs is awesome. Boringly calls him Dev 0537. Sorry, I misnamed him. Gains illicit access via social engineering. Yep, that's what they do. This is how they do it, which includes, look at this, bribing or tricking employees at target organizations or its myriad partners, such as customer support call centers and help desk. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that makes me shake in my boots. Please do not hear me on this live stream and think, well, that doesn't apply to me because I work at a small MSP. So no problems for me. They're not coming after me. We've heard that before over and over, haven't we? That is not what's happening here. You need to be very careful about this because let me just go back to the quote and I'm going to tell you why this honestly makes me shake in my boots if I'm an MSP. They're using these tried and true methods of social engineering, not just the target organization, but its myriad partners, such as customer support call centers and help desks. You see what I'm getting at here? We're literally channel. That's what we do. That's pretty scary. Also, we rely on third-party SOCs, security operations centers. We rely on third-party NOCs, network operations centers. This is what we do as MSPs. And I fear for the day that one of these big MSP companies is targeted by somebody like LAPSUS. That's not so great. That is, could that happen? Yes. There's already been precedent. Think about how many of the well-known name brand MSP companies that have been hit with some kind of cybersecurity incident over the past 5 years. Almost all of them. So that's scary to think that the bad guys may say, you know what? Why don't we go after the MSP channel? We're talking about myriad partners. You talk about thousands of them getting in through help desk, getting access in through there, and then leveraging that to go after MSPs who in turn have access to tens, if not hundreds of clients on their own, multiplied exponentially by all these MSPs. That's a doomsday scenario. And it's scary to me because when you think about how this works with social engineering, if they got Microsoft, they could get any of us. I'm not picking on anybody here. I'm not saying that the big security vendors in the MSP or even just the big IT vendors in the MSP space are less prone or more prone to an attack. I'm just saying that this should be scary to us, that it's not just LAPSUS, but many others that could absolutely go after them, right? Violet, good to see you on. I'm going to bring up your quote here. LAPSUS focus on channel. Yep. So for sure, that could happen, Violet. And that's exactly what we're about. And if that does happen, there could be a wild effect. Okay. So let's go back into the quote a little bit more. And then I'm going to show you LAPSUS. That's just how I roll. Microsoft instances where the group successfully gained access to target organizations through recruited employees. Crazy, right? Recruiting employees into this, or employers of their suppliers or business partners, right? So again, remember, we've been talking about supply chain for quite some time in cybersecurity. This is as important in the channel as it is elsewhere. Boy, wow, got to be careful about that. So Dev 0537 advertised they wanted to buy credentials for their targets to entice employees or contractors to take part in this operation. For a fee, the willing accomplice must be able to provide their credentials. Look at this. And you see it? And approve the MFA prompt. What good does MFA do for you when you have an insider who's being paid to pop in the credentials and whack the approve button saying it's all good, baby? Don't worry about it. That's the whole point of MFA, is it assumes, and I'm not hating on MFA, and hear me, I am not saying don't use MFA or give up on it, but in these kinds of instances where an insider has been coerced, MFA doesn't do good because MFA operates under the assumption that that user is legitimate. And when they push the button, it's legitimately legitimate, right? That doesn't always hold true, especially in cases like this. Or have the user install AnyDesk, which is one of those like VPN remote in kind of softwares, or other remote management software on a corporate workstation. So there you have it. Pretty scary stuff for sure. Such a tactic was just one of the ways that Dev0537, meaning LAPSUS, took advantage of the security access and business relationships their target organizations have with their service providers and supply chains. So that's scary because could that happen inside of our space? Yes, it could happen. And I would even say, just try not to be a pessimist. It's a matter of time until a sophisticated social engineering attack happens like that. Not good for us. Aaron, Cyberforce as the name, the greater number of tangents equals the greater potential attack vectors. You know what's good about that too, Aaron, is Cyberforce, there's a Space Force now, right? So now you have Cyberforce, which kind of goes right part and parcel to Space Force. So I see what you're saying, and I like it. I like where you're coming from, my friend. It's good thinking for sure, and it's probably the most likely name if they were to like go pick something new, right? So the LAPSUS Telegram channel has now grown to more than 45,000 subscribers. Microsoft points to an ad LAPSUS posted there offering to recruit people. So let's take a look at this recruitment. So here it is. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm looking for insiders at AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile. Now, I wonder why. I'll tell you why, all the SIM swapping that these people do. Because people are like, well, I shouldn't be prone to a SIM swap attack because I have a PIN code set up on it. Well, that's all well and good until you have a bad guy disclose what that PIN code is. And you're done, right? So that's why TOTPs over text are not good. Because it's easy to, even today, this is why. This kind of stuff right here, right? I can offer you upwards of, and who knows if this is true, right? But this is an insane amount of money, $20,000 a week to do some inside jobs at any of those companies. These tasks are low risk for you and me. I mean, just don't worry about the fact that you could go to prison for this. I mean, no big deal, right? But plus you'll get paid insanely well by me. The jobs will involve SIM swapping, 1 or 2 customers a week. You won't even be noticed. Just trust me here, right? I'm a bad guy, so like you can totally trust me here when I say that, if you just do 1 or 2 a week, you're not going to get caught. It's all going to be good. You're going to be fine. And you're going to get $20,000 a week. Well, the reality is people are going to read that probably aren't making a ton of money, that have the authority to do like PIN code changes, which is probably a lot of those people at those companies. And they probably are enticed by this. Pretty wild. Pretty wild, right? So goes on here. You can contact me by Telegram. There's the username WhiteDocsBin. And then I'm not going to go through all of this, but there's a lot more stuff that Krebs uncovers around these people, especially this person here, this White Docsbin. There's a lot more to it. Flashpoint, some awesome threat intel people. I know some of the folks over there covered some more about them and some of the victims that had happened. But let me scroll down a little bit. In some cases, let's see, so I can find what I'm looking for. They talk a little bit more about how they get their access. Again, they're enticing people to give that access up. And then here's some more recruitment information around them if you want to kind of see some of that. They cover some of the past SIM swapping stuff that LAPSUS and others have been known to do. So now you understand how effective this is and how it works. So who is LAPSUS? This brings us up to the second last piece that I want to talk about. So Nixon said, that's one of the people they're interviewing here, that LAPSUS's apparent ringleader is the same individual who purchased DocSpin a while back. Apparently, their new owner failed to keep up with things. They bought it for a significant amount of money. It wasn't going well. And apparently a ton of Bitcoin was traded back and forth. My budget is $100,000 in Bitcoin. Person who directs me to someone will get 10,000 in Bitcoin. So apparently this White Docsbin has significant amounts of money, right? And then look at this right here. Krebs on security is not publishing White Docsbin's alleged real name because he's a minor, crazy, currently age 17, and because this person's not officially been accused of a crime. So apparently Krebs knows who this person is. I'm sure Krebs has published this to law enforcement. That's exactly what he would do, I assume. He has no requirement to protect this person. Also, the Docsbin entry for this individual includes personal information on his family members. So this person apparently is known and 17 years old. Just nuts to me, just crazy. Nixon said prior to launching LAPSUS, White Docsbin was a founding member of the I'll talk eventually. Give me a minute. Cyber criminal group calling itself Recursion Team. I don't know much about recursion team, but there's a link here. We could go read more about it if we wanted to. So anyway, there you have it. So this is why these people are so prolific. This is why they're so scary, not because he's 17, but because the tactics they're using to break in are so effective. They're enticing people at these organizations to click in. Somewhere in here as well, I don't know if I can find it. So hard. Let's see if I can. Um, Written English. Yeah, here it is. The group used the previously gathered information and had a native English sounding speaker call the help desk personnel to enhance their social engineering lure. Observed actions have included answering, they could answer common recovery prompts, such as the first street you lived on or your mother's maiden name, to convince help desk personnel of authenticity. So just wild, right? The point of this is it's really hard when you put controls in place. You're like, oh, well, we're going to confirm it's you and we're going to do this password reset or whatever information we're pulling when the speaker sounds native. So your guard goes down a little bit. When the information they have, even though it's somewhat public, they have available, like these people are good, even though, like we said before, it's not scary 0 day. It's legit. It's scary stuff, right? So that's why we're getting into this. And that's why the CSRB is doing some research into what recommendations would we have. And I hope those recommendations come down to things like you need to train all employees. You need to make sure you have a hotline that this can be reported if someone reaches out to you. You might even have a reward system in place if someone from one of these criminal groups reach out to you and want you to like install their software, like their AnyDesk or whatever it may be, that you have a rewarded hotline. So you get some kind of reward for reporting that and putting that quickly in with law enforcement so they can, go after this kind of stuff at the time of need. This is scary stuff because it's really hard to stop, right? And it will always be pervasive because we can have great code review and really good AppSec design. Still, we're weak to these things. It's just nature, right? So the last thing I wanted to show you was their group, and I promised you I would. So let's share this out, baby, shall we? Here it is. So this is LAPSUS's Telegram channel. So it's currently sitting at 56,928 subscribers. No, you just searching for LAPSUS $ will not bring it up. So not going to do that. That won't work for you. Let's see some things I want to talk about. So there's one of their, I'm not going to download these. Here's a torrent file of a leak of globant.com. This is their leak site. So apparently they've leaked them. Again, this is all alleged. I'm not certifying any of this. I'm not saying this is all real and legitimate. It could all be fake, right? None of that kind of stuff. I'm not saying use it for your own means. I'm just showing you a public. Again, this is public. Anyone can join it. It's okay for me to share this stuff. So here's their leak site, right? Here's their information on Okta. When Okta replied back to the breach incident, I'm not certifying that any of this information is right. These are bad guys that are communicating, right? Here's the response back from the actual from Okta's incident response report. They clearly disagreed with some things, for better or worse. So here it all is, right? Here's some interesting stuff: dumps of hashes that they're posting. There's a lot of stuff that's here. And the reason that they have these dump sites, this LAPSUS is not the only one that has something like this. The reason that many of these actors have these dump sites is so they can go and threaten and say, we're going to share this information with others so that anyone can go, like me, can go and see it, like you can go and see it with a couple simple searches and go find this and join into this. This is their net. This is not where LAPSUS communicates on a daily basis. This is not their operational channel. This is just their external side where they just publish out the data that they're going after so that everybody can see it, which gives them teeth, which makes people afraid, which makes people want to pay a ransom so that they don't get onto that site. That's the whole reason that LAPSUS channel exists, is so that they can share and scare everyone into caring about all of this. So there you have it. There's LAPSUS. What's the lesson learned on a Friday? The lesson learned is this is real. The lesson learned is you need to be concerned about social engineering as much as ever before. The lesson learned is that we will continue to see LAPSUS and others like them pave the way of vulnerability-less attacks, right? That are just totally leveraging human trust. The lessons learned are that if you're listening to this and you're a security practitioner today, or you work for a bigger vendor, that you need to really assess, how do we put countermeasures in place to address this? Insider threat is a real thing, and it's always been a real thing. It just becomes more significant when you're able to, as LAPSUS claims, to pay people upwards of $20,000 a week for certain pieces of information. I can't confirm that any of those people were ever paid any of that. Wouldn't be surprised if they weren't. These are bad guys we're talking about, but it's real. and you got to be concerned about it. So I'm curious what you all think. Give me some comments. I'm going to pop this back up in case anyone wants to give me some thoughts or questions around any of this. What are we going to see more of this? Give me your reactions. Give me your feedback. Ask me questions if you have them. I don't know, but I'm totally open to any of those things and just want to know what you think about all of this and want to know what your response is. I truly hope, though, that we will not see some of this happen inside the channel, but I can't help but think LAPSUS's story is not completely told. And that's unfortunate because that means others will be hit. That means others will be having to deal with the aftermath of some of these things, and many of us might even be personally impacted by it. And that's the challenge, and that's the sadness of cybersecurity as a whole, is seeing the impacts when things go awry, as they oftentimes do. So there you have it. There's some information around LAPSUS. I'm going to hang out for just a minute in case any of you guys have questions for me. Thoughts, want to know anything. Still a bunch of you guys on the live stream. And if not, let me know what you're doing for the weekend, right? It's Christmas time. I'm curious if you guys are doing any shopping or going to play in the snow. Unfortunately, I don't have snow here in Tampa, which is really sad. I don't even know what we're going to do this weekend, but should be a good weekend nonetheless. I'm going to crank the music up too while I'm waiting in case anyone a response or a question here. I'm going to wait for just another 30, 40 seconds and then we'll be out. Remember what I said at the beginning? First of all, I owe Eric and I owe Matt some Dictator coins. So reach out, DM me. I will Dictator coin you up and go pick out your Moon Lambo color and let me know what it is. Let's see. Eddie, great info. Any evidence that vendors are taking this seriously? What a great question. By changing their internal process. Example, requiring 2 people to authorize actions that would allow SIM swapping. Great question. So in fact, you kind of answered part of this anyway, Eddie. This is really wise of you, is that if I'm sitting here on Verizon side, now I don't have any contacts deep enough into Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, any of those that were mentioned by LAPSUS, but that's one of the best things that you can do is have 2 people involved in this. We did this at the bank where I was at, and this is common, not just my bank. All banks did this. Before money movement would happen, wires, you have to have 2 people involved. And that's the exact reason, to make sure that both parties, that makes sense. Yep, I'm going to do that. Yep, how do you know that was real? Blah, blah, blah. That can help. It can't eliminate it because it's possible that the second party might just brainlessly say, yeah, sure, cool, I'll do it. But what it can do is if you implement this, the approver who can actually make it happen has to have documentation that this is real and not just, oh, I flipped it because somebody bad told me to, but I actually have some documentation for it. Then that can go a long way. So Eddie, great point there, is that I think that's a lot of what you want to think about, is how do we have two or more people involved in a process where we change things that could allow bad guys to have access to something. I think that's really smart. But no, personally, I have no evidence that vendors are taking it seriously. I just hope that they are. And maybe that's part of what CSRB is doing, is publishing some guidance to make sure that they take it seriously. And again, in the channel, where I'm very familiar, same thing. I'm not saying that anyone is taking it seriously or is not. And if you're listening to this today and you represent a company that are taking it seriously, now's your chance. Pop it into comments now or after if you watch this live stream later, and let me know what you're doing for your company. I would love that. I'd love to hear some guidance from others and what they're doing. Eric, got to bounce. No worries. Glad you're here with us. Hanging some more lights. You know what? That's probably what I got to go do too. My kids are bugging me to get the lights up, so we'll have to get that going as well. So really great thoughts, Eddie. Awesome way to close this. Really good thoughts around requiring more than one person to be involved in process. That probably needs to happen more often. So we're going to end the live stream here. This has been super fun. It's Friday, like I said at the beginning. Tell your boss, I told you you could jet out. You listen to this live stream. I think you're at least one IQ point smarter now. Maybe, I don't know, maybe dumber. Either way, you deserve to be off for the rest of the weekend. So I hope you do that and hope you enjoy it. Aaron, utilizing AI as secondary confirmation would seem to help frustrate efforts. However, the cost of these solutions is somewhat cost prohibitive. Yeah, we've seen AI kind of trip into that whole UEBA, the user behavior analytics stuff. A lot of promise made by UEBA. I would argue a lot of times the returns have not been there the way they need to be yet, but maybe one day we'll see that happen. But you make a great point that AI could certainly drive good AI that's really based on a good data set could certainly be helpful in pointing people in the right directions to find fraud or potential misuse. I think that's a good point. All right, my friends, we're going to end it here. Hope you guys all have an awesome weekend. Thank you guys so very much.